Welcome into Bleacher Talk. I'm Jordan Spurgeon alongside Claudia Collins. And Claudia, this has been a really fun season. I think there's a lot of things that we've been seeing that maybe we expected to see, and plenty of teams and players kind of catching us by surprise this year. This has been a really fun Friday night, light season so far. Weather's been mostly great. We haven't had nearly as many delays. If that starts happening, don't hold that against me now for saying it, but I am very happy about that. We're not getting super late games. So this has been a really good start to the season.
No, it's been the most fun start to a season, I would say. And I think it's just fun for us. We're a couple years deep in the high school football scene, and we kind of think we know what to expect. And for the first time this week, our record shows that we know what to expect because we were all on the same page, making the same picks last week, and we all went 3-0. So the lesson for me is just do whatever you two do. And I'm going to I guess I'll just stay in third place in that case. So we probably don't want that. But I think we just jump right into the picks. And I want to start with the Thursday game, Pinnacle at Horizon. Spurs, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a really fun game. Both teams 3-0. I love both quarterbacks. Wyatt Horton is a stud over at Pinnacle. The offense has not skipped a beat. They had 57 points last week. And Zach Jones over at Horizon, they kind of were rolling with two guys to start the year, and he's kind of been the one that separates himself. And, he's their second leading rusher and their leading passer. So he's really balling out for them. Horizon, they haven't maybe had as tough of a schedule as Pinnacle has had to this point, but this is a team that is, only 2 years removed from a state championship game. I like what Andy Litton has done with this roster. Last year, it was really, really young team, and we're seeing kind of where they are now defensively, not giving up very many points. They have 2 shutouts already this season. So this is a really tough pick, honestly. I know Pinnacle is kind of the hot team that usually dominates in this rivalry, but Horizon has something going on with them. 11.5 sacks on defense. I love Wyatt Horton and I love Pinnacle, but I'm gonna pick an upset in a rivalry game. Give me Horizon in a really hard fought defensive battle at the end of the game, 24-23.
Wow, by 1 point. Spurge, you're having a fun time with these upsets this season, and it worked out for you last time. You took honestly pretty much every note I had. The thing with Pinnacle is they always rebuild, reload, whatever you want to call it. And I guess they also always send their guys to USC, because I was just checking out Twitter, and it's just so cool to see Deuce Robinson and Elijah Page, Dorian Singer out there. And Wyatt Horton just went on a visit this past weekend to hang out with them. I know that's totally nothing to do with picks, but if the Pioneers do one thing, it's they play good football and then they go to USC. Big fan of Wyatt Horton as well. Both teams 3-0, like you said. Horizon coming off back-to-back shutouts against Mountain View and Willow Canyon, I believe. Pinnacle opening up the season against Arborview. I think they're just going to keep doing what they do. And I think they are a little bit more battle tested at this point in the season. And I think in these early weeks, most of my picks have to do with schedule, because we haven't really seen the full formed team until I would say the halfway point of the season. I'm not picking the upset. And I realize that could just make me fall further back, but I just think it's going to be Pinnacle, and I'm going to go 24-21. All right, Coop, split decision right now. Whose side are you taking?
Well, let me just say this, that I do believe that strength of schedule matters. And I know both of you have pointed out that Horizons dropped like 177 points on offense and only given up 17. That was in their opener, back-to-back shutouts. But I just don't believe that they played the same schedule that Pinnacle has. You talked about Pinnacle playing a strong Las Vegas non-conference out-of-state game, and they won that 19-9. And Corona del Sol is a very good team, and they just beat them last week 57-27. I just am a Wyatt Horton fan. I mean, even when Dylan Rayola transferred from Chandler into Pinnacle, he didn't run away. He accepted the challenge. Everyone knows that Dylan now is in Georgia. But I like everything I've seen about Horton, even in the championship game, the 6A championship game against Highland a year ago. I'm just a Wyatt Horton fan. I'm taking the Pinnacle Pioneers, 35, Horizon 21.
I know I can speak on behalf of Spurge as well. I think we're all Wyatt Horton fans. It's hard not to be. Such a cool story, just as a junior, the success that he's had. Next matchup, Cesar Chavez at Camelback. Coop, I'll let you make the first pick and set the tone here.
Wow, you know, when you say Cesar Chavez, everyone remembers the tragedy that hit that program before the season started. They started looking at which interim coach were we going to use and things like that. And let me just say this: hats off to William Burrell and the whole program over there for just overcoming at adversity the way they have. I mean, they beat a big rival game in Betty Fairfax last week, 50-0. I have a lot of respect for what Brandon McNutt has done over at Camelback. Love the culture that he's building there. I mean, last year they were a game away from making the playoffs. Um, they had a tough setback last week against a very, very good Desert Edge team, 54-0. So might be a little harder for them to get back, but I like what I'm seeing over at Cesar Chavez. Seems like they're rallying around the tragedy, making it an inspiration type of thing for them. So I'm going to take the champion to win this one, 24-21.
All right, Spurge, you can make your pick.
Yeah, Coop. I mean, you kind of touched on it both. They both have two pretty resounding wins and both have losses to teams that, I mean, truthfully, they're very tough teams. Cesar Chavez opens the year, loses to Chandler. Not many teams are beating Chandler. Desert Edge, one of the top teams in the state. You know, that game, I don't hold either of those games against either team in that situation. So you look at the other games they've played and they've both been impressive. You know, Camelback is a team that's been building and building for the last few years, but so is Cesar Chavez. And, you know, I know the things that happened this offseason are something that they are rallying behind with all the changes and the coaching and things like that, and players kind of coming together because of that. And so I just think right now they have the slightly better team. And so I'm going to take them to win this one 20-17.
It sounds like we're all on the same page and had the same notebook prepared. Cesar Chavez overall, I mean, I feel like that's a program that has dealt with a lot of hardship over the last several years. If you look back at COVID and just the way that they've kind of needed to almost rebuild their team over the last several seasons. Yes, we're going to look at that opening loss to Chandler. That is a tough game to kick off the season. Desert Edge was one of my teams to watch this season as one of the best teams in the division, or just a lot of D1 talent on the. They've both had, you know, that one tough game on the schedule. For me, it just feels like Camelback has so much potential, but is still trying to find their groove. And I could say the same about Cesar Chavez. I think they're both kind of in that boat, but a little bit more on the side of Camelback. So I am going to make the same exact pick as y'all, and I am going to take Cesar Chavez in a close one, 2017. I'll go ahead and make my pick first in this next matchup, though, Mesa at Dobson. I remember the emotion of Mesa taking down Corona del Sol in the first round of the playoffs last season. I was there at that game, and I think there were a lot of us media personnel on the sidelines that truly weren't expecting that outcome. And they looked like, I know this is a season back, but they looked like the better team in that game. And I think they're just so determined to build off of this success that they had last season. This is a program that hasn't seen a lot of success in several years. They opened the season against Red Mountain, I believe, and then lost in yes. So last season they lost in round 2 against Red Mountain. So they've got a little bit of a taste of like that last season energy as well. And then they took it to Skyline and Valley Vista. Dobson opened the season with a win against Cibola, tough losses to Camelback and Central. It's just, for me, I'm going to I have to bet on Mesa, the Jackrabbits here, just because of the way that they're building off of last season. I'm going to go higher scoring game than the last couple matchups we've talked about. I'm going to go 35-30 Mesa. All right, Coop, I'll let you make your pick.
All right. Well, look, I'm a fan of Chad DeGrenier over at Mesa High School. I followed his career when he was covering when he was the quarterback in the Arizona Rattlers, for crying out loud. So, look, that used to be a big rivalry, Mesa rivalry, when they were in the same region and stuff. Dobson certainly has fallen on hard times most of this past decade. I do see them coming up, under Godzilla. And look, Alan Wallace. I mean, what a phenomenal game he had toting the ball last week. I mean, he had almost 250 yards rushing last week. But I just don't think that the Mustangs have enough offense to compete with the Jackrabbits. So I'm going to take Mesa High to win this one, 42-24.
Spurs, this is your chance to just continue to secure your lead. What's your choice here?
Well, listen, I do like what Dobson's done the last few years. Coach Bill Godsill has really been building that program. They have all new facilities, and they're very excited about that as part of like all the Mesa school that are getting new fields and weight rooms and things like that. And so they're a program that is continuing to be on the rise, but Mesa is a team that has some explosive playmakers. Junior St. Cyr is one of my favorite running backs in the state. I mean, you watch him play, he just looks bigger than even some of his teammates on the field. I mean, sometimes I see him running and he looks like a grown man, and that's not even a knock on other players on that team. He's just really, really built, and he's got, everything that you want in a running back to succeed in Arizona high school football. So I think they're going to rely on him heavily. I think he's going to have a really, really big game, and I'm going to take the Jackrabbits here. Final score 31-17.
Another fun edition of Quick Picks. Doesn't seem too hopeful for me to make any sort of jump after the picks that we've all made. But another great week of high school football now in the books, and another one on the way. Coop, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Bleacher Talk. Jordan Spurgeon alongside Claudia Collins. And, this year, I know the format's different if you're tuning in for the first time. Rather than being out at a school and doing all those fun interviews we're doing a little more storytelling. I'll be honest, I've got to pick it up and do some great storytelling. But right now, Claudia, you've been doing some great stuff on the sidelines at games, catching up with different families. And so this week, it sounds like you had a pretty fun family you got to hang out with.
Every week has been so much fun so far. I've loved hanging out with the parents and just getting to know, their player, the way that they talk about their son growing up in football and the advice that they have for other parents. But this week, when I was looking at matchups, I was like, yeah, I want to be at that Chaparral Desert Mountain game. And obviously, when you think of Desert Mountain families, you kind of think Santana Wilson comes to mind, son of Adrian Wilson. Well, let me tell you, Adrian Wilson's wife is awesome, Alicia Wilson, and they have such an awesome family. I got to hang out with some of his siblings, and they definitely like picking on Santana, so that we had some fun moments with that too. But here's a good look at my conversation with some of the Wilson family.
Football is it's embedded in our family, our house. So I'm nervous, but I'm excited for Santana, to take his next steps off to college. So this is just like, I'm trying to take these moments in of just having him at home and celebrating him.
Who are some of the guys that you've also gotten to see grow up alongside your son, and how have you kind of seen them change?
So there's Dylan Hip. I think he changed his number this year. He's number 1. I think he's tight end. He committed to Ole Miss. Dylan Hip, Dylan Tapley, Max Sheffrin, Ashes Atherton. They've been playing together since they were 8, doing Pop Warner. And watching them grow up has just been it's been just funny because they all like have beards and little mustaches now, so they look like really like young men. Adrian had a joke with Dylan Hip's parents that we needed his social security number to write him off on our taxes because of how much groceries were being consumed.
Obviously, football is a big part of your family. Tell me about like the point in time where you saw like Santana had the potential to do really well in this sport as well.
Yes, football has been a big part of our family, but we did not request football of Santana. Santana has a younger brother that's in 8th grade, Brooklyn.
I heard he's a hooper.
He is, but we don't push that on them. Santana actually approached his father about signing him up for football, so he took the initiative to, want to play the sport, and I noticed once he really focused and locked in on it, it kept him out of trouble. Football has been more of a help for Santana, like giving him just like the camaraderie, giving him a routine every day. So that's what he's enjoyed about football, but it's nothing
and I'm sure you've enjoyed that about football too.
Agree. The phone calls from the middle school stopped. Once he left and got off into high school, his behavior did a curve in a good way.
But it was like, if you have any funny stories or anything about Santana when he was your student.
Well, when I would work with him in the evenings, he would try to tell me that he didn't have any homework, but I would talk to all the teachers.
I did the
so
same
I would find out, and he couldn't pull that past me, but he worked really hard for me. I got really close to him, and I've been following him since, all through his career.
How do you think sports can benefit any student?
I think it can help them with their focus, and that it can just give them a purpose, I guess, a reason to succeed across the board, not just in sports, but to keep his grades up and all that. And so, I think it was a good fit for him to be playing football.
How would you describe your relationship with your brother growing up?
He has a nickname for us. He calls us the real OGs since we were the two firstborn, and we had some quite a few years before Brooklyn was born. It's always been love, though. He's my best friend, my built-in best friend. We're only 3 years and a couple months apart.
So you're from North Carolina, right?
Yes.
And your husband as well?
Yes, we met in 7th grade.
Oh my goodness. So are you 7th grade sweethearts?
Oh,
or
no.
What's the love story here?
Started dating junior year of college. We've been married 21 years, have 4 children.
We have a first date story.
It was at Waffle House.
Amazing, and also the most North Carolina answer that you could have. My husband and I are big fans of Waffle House. He's a big all-star special guy, so.
Yep, same. That's my order too.
Were you always a football fan, or like?
No. So my backstory of watching football is I was in the marching band.
Nice.
I played
What'd you play?
Clarinet.
Nice.
So I had no choice on Friday nights but to sit in the stands, play my instrument, and that's how I was, I guess, started watching football. But I never really knew how much I loved it until Adrian was playing professionally. That's when I got into the calls and positions and things of that sort. That's when I really started educating myself on the game.
As a whole family, what are some of the moments growing up that you'll never forget?
I feel like a core memory, and it's honestly not even tied to football. Every single year, my family and I, we go to Disneyland. That's our big family trip that we take. Recently, we actually went on it this year without our parents.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a big siblings trip, and we actually went with one of his teammates, Will Saba. That was a lot of fun. It was really nice being able to, spend some time with them outside of being with our parents. We had some, we've got to break away from them a little bit. That was a core memory, definitely. And I'll definitely also say the trip to Texas. Our dad was on that trip a couple days later, but it was me and my 2 brothers, and that was really nice getting to, see another college campus and just kind of the familial dynamic they do have at UT.
So Santana has always been the one child in our household to keep literally everyone on their toes. There's one incident where I was driving and Aubrey and Santana were in the back seat. Santana was probably around maybe 4 years old. And I remember stopping the car to get gas, and Aubrey is like staring at Santana, and then I'm kind of chit-chatting with her. And Santana had stuffed 2 green jelly beans, one up each nostril. So that gave me a panic attack, but it's classic Santana. He was born 2 pounds, 14 ounces, so he's always just like marched to the beat of his own drum, even in the womb, apparently.
With sports, something I always told him, there was a period of time where he was a little bit iffy about football. So I always told him, don't make it an expectation of others for you to play sports because our dad did. I experienced that when I was running track. People telling me, oh, you're good because of your dad. And that just pushed me to go out there and, perform as best as I could. So I told him, don't go out there and do that because other people do what you love. But I'll definitely say in that time I've learned from him. He loves the sport. He's great at it, and I'm proud of where he's at right now.
So much fun. I love seeing how the families interact when their sons are playing, whether it's a great game, a bad game, they're always there to support. They are the number one supporters of their kids. And so really cool to get some insight there on the Wilson family, Claudia. That was amazing. Speaking of insight, next up, Eliav Gabai, Marley Xana Thompson, some social spotlight all over the world of Arizona high school football, some catches of the week, I'm sure. That's the new thing they're bringing on. So we'll see you on the other side right after Social Spotlight.
Welcome back to Bleacher Talk, and this is Social Spotlight. I'm Eliav Gabai. She's Marley Xana Thompson, and he right here is Misha. Hey, Misha, say hi to the people.
Special guest.
He's really locked in. Okay, so we are locked in for this next week of games as always, but we got to give some shout outs to some commitments. First off, or one big commitment, going to Boise State, Caden Anderson from Chandler. And guess what? He did it right after the win against Orange Lutheran. I haven't seen that too many times, and I absolutely love those kind of surprises, Marley.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought that it was really unique compared to everything else that everyone has done. And the fact that he involved his whole team with him as well was just awesome. It was so cool. Such an awesome feeling, just to share with the people who have helped you get to that point. So I thought it was really unique and it was really cool. And I liked it a lot.
And we know Boise State loves their tight ends. So hopefully he can be serviceable as we know he can. Now, this is a fun one because maybe a little preview of the future. Claudia Collins said it. Basically, a Pinnacle high school reunion at USC got Wyatt Horton, current quarterback for the Pioneers, meeting up with former Pioneers Deuce Robinson and Elijah Page. I don't know. I saw him on the field. I saw it on the social media. Would love to see Wyatt join them there, but that's always fun when you can link up old teammates,
Yeah, that's super cool. I know, again, to go back to gymnastics, when I would go and support my girls, it's always just nice to have that familiar feeling. And I'm sure that can help, in the recruiting process as well. But I loved seeing the pictures of the selfies with everyone and, a Deuce looking up, talking to them. So, again, another special thing to share with some special people.
Speaking of special moments with special people, Donuts for Dubs has continued this season. We couldn't go without showing it some love. Shout out to Jason Mons, current tight end coach for Arizona State and former head coach of Saguaro football. I love this tradition. It didn't result in a win against Oklahoma State, but still one of the sweetest traditions out there. And I did not mean that literally, even though that definitely works. Just Donuts for Dubs. Continue. Keep bringing it on. And I'm sure it'll work against Fresno State. Not totally sure, but sure, it'll work.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm new to it. You guys just showed it to me this year, but I'm all here for it. I love donuts. We get donuts almost every Sunday at my other job, hoping for a win as well. So I love it. I remember growing up having Oreos and milk with my dad like all the time too. So that's special to have with your kids as well. And maybe they'll carry on the tradition as well with their kids. So
Yeah.
maybe go
Definitely.
for something bigger.
This is interesting. This is really interesting, Marley. Jordy Ham putting this up on social media. What a good fantasy football team the Arizona Ties have put together. Brock Purdy, Bijan Robinson, Rashad White, Brandon Ayuk. Massive first day for a few of those guys, first week. Christian Kirk, Mark Andrews, Nick Folk. Are you kidding? This is better than my team. Come on. I should just draft that way, I feel like, from now on. Because
I know, just auto draft Arizona.
Yeah, right. Can we set those settings? I mean, I don't know. I love it. What do you think? I think this is a pretty solid team.
I think it's really awesome. I think it's really fun. I did not know all the Arizona Ties, and then Jordy put it all out there, and it was really cool to see. And it just shows like Arizona is a hot spot for producing awesome people in football. And even though that's not what our fantasy is, we still hope that they do really, really well.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't you all forget it. AZ is a spot for high school football and football in general. And I'm going to have to talk to Brad about those donuts. Maybe we can get a rotation going for us on Fridays. But that's a conversation for later. For Marley Zanna Thompson, I'm Eliav Gabay. This has been Social Spotlight and Bleacher Talk. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Eliav and Marley. Always so much fun seeing what you have to bring to the table on Social Spotlight. Week 3 of high school football is in the books, and we look ahead to week 4. I'm sure it's going to be another good one. We'll see you next week on Bleacher Talk.